Hello and welcome back to Round the Archives in Conversation. Lisa is here.
Hello.
Warren is here.
Hello.
Paul is here.
Hello.
And Martin is here.
I am indeed. Hello. Yeah, I thought you'd forgotten Paul's name then for a second. was this pause?
But
30 years of friendship.
I know it's something to do with Yetis. I know it's something to do with Yetis.
But I think we've got a lot to jam into this one. So I think we'll start with what have people been watching since we last spoke? Lisa, what have you been watching?
What have I been watching? I have mostly been watching the 1972 season of The Generation Game.
Mm-hmm.
With a little bit of Oh Happy Band.
Yeah.
And Enemy at the Door.
Yeah. And which have you been enjoying the most?
I actually have to say, I think it's Generation Game.
Why have you been enjoying that more then?
Because it's a real slice of that particular moment in the 70s, which I'm too young to remember because I was about 2-3 months old.
Yeah.
And Bruce Forsyth is very, very good as the host. I was used to seeing him in Strictly Come Dancing, and sometimes I hold my hands up, I was a bit dismissive because he was a bit sort of doddery, or I don't think he had the right writers for that. But in this, he's superb. He's really on his best game. But
Warren, you said you'd watched one or two of these. So what's your opinion of these?
It's just what we need now. I was having a quick comparison with Ant/Stroke Ordeck, Saturday Night Takeaway. I'm not a great fan. They seem to have taken all the bits. It's very unoriginal and cobbled together a show. But more than anything now, I think we need Brucey's format because we need that lift. And whereas today people go on television to be a star, the people who were taking part in the Generation Game then had no intentions of being the star of the show or being the end. They went on to have fun, didn't they? They went on to meet Brucey, and they wanted to win a fondue, a cuddly toy. 72. I've been watching the one with the regional dialects, which was quite interesting, wasn't it?
Oh right, yes.
That's the singing postman.
Oh God.
Singing postman, whistling milkman. I don't know, chloroforming dentists. I don't know, what did we have during the 70s?
Were they all John Pertwee by any chance?
No. Would have been more fun if it'd been John Pertwee. But
absolutely.
No.
And the wheel on the knackered gold Dalek as
goes round and round.
Because this is recorded just before it's due in studio for Frontier in Space, I think.
Yes.
According to our sources.
Yes.
Have they run the torch in its eye stalk?
Not yet. No.
No.
Terry Nation one.
That's the other one. That's the supreme one. This is the one that appears in Day of the Daleks and turns up in Frontier in Space episode 6.
Love Day of the Daleks.
Yeah. But Paul, what has been tickling your eyeballs in the past few weeks?
Well, I have been dipping back into some Doctor Who's that I haven't watched for a long time. I've tried to go for ones that I've almost sort of forgotten because perhaps I haven't watched them for 5-10 years. But I was talking to Nick about this because he likes to watch things in order, and I'm like the opposite. I'm kind of, if I know what's coming up next, I want to surprise myself 2 minutes before I go to the shelf. So I've been watching things like Colony in Space and Creature from the Pit and Inferno, and now I'm kind of going back to work 3 days a week. I've gone back to watching an episode on the phone between here and Clapham Junction, so I'm on Frontier, so I'm really jumping around the eras.
Random factor, like a tractor, weave your way.
but of course, new old stuff. I've watched The Fury from the Deep, new DVD. I'm still on some of my longer projects. I'm coming towards the end of season 6 of Dynasty, so you've got Kate O'Mara in it now. And I'm on season 1 of The Colbys, which has got Stephanie Beacham. And I'm on season 4 of Desperate Housewives, and season 3 of Lost. I've done Day of the Triffids, and also I'm watching Strange Paradise, which is the show that another channel in America tried to sort of introduce as a sort of Dark Shadows, their version of Dark Shadows, which went from 69 to 70, which I think I might have mentioned briefly. I'm still watching that, but quite slowly, because I'm kind of hoping there were only 195 episodes, and about 130 something of them are on YouTube. But I'm kind of hoping if I go slowly, maybe somebody will fill those gaps, because I can see people talking about that they've seen the whole series. So I'm kind of, but it's not a show you can buy anywhere. So.
The Yeti never sleeps.
Martin, not Martin. Paul, can I ask you a quick question regarding the American soaps?
Yeah,
because it's quite interesting there. The protagonists, mainly the female protagonists, are British. So are British bitches best, or because I was quite surprised that something like the Colbys and Dynasty have British female leads in them.
Yeah, I mean, and although Joan Collins is doing her best American accent, and that's kind of the accent she developed by then, and I guess she'd been out there a long time. I still think of her as British. So all the bad ladies, most of them, the best ones are.
What era? What sort of year would the dynasties you've been watching have been made?
It's the 85-86 season I'm watching.
Because I've been watching a 96 series, and I've been just fascinated by American women's eyebrows. I don't know why. There's something about that sort of slightly.
Do they meet in the middle?
Well, no. It's more the sort of the design, the perfectly shaped frown. And there seems to be, I think actually that one of the reasons why they got British actors in for that, actors, whatever you want to call them, in for that kind of thing, is just that I don't think they like to think of American women as being anything other than mom, and I think they feel it might have undermined the American way if you actually if you allowed them to be uber bitches, so they got all the Brits in to do that, because everybody hates the Brits anyway, so why not,
Yeah, I mean, are we looking? Do they not want to dispel the Waltons or the Little House on the Prairie impression of little hometown America?
Well, I suppose the other thing was that wasn't it Bing Crosby's daughter that shot J.R.
It was his granddaughter, wasn't it? Yeah.
So maybe they.
I won £15.
We can't let that happen again. Any time anybody does evil now in Dallas or Dynasty, it's going to have to be they're a Brit, one of those bloody colonialists.
There was a great scene in the episode I watched last night where Alexis discovers that Kate O'Mara's character, who's called Caress, although she had another name which she grew up with, but there's no darling, I'm Caress these days, and she's writing a book, and she kind of wants to write something about Alexis, and Alexis finds out this is going on, and she calls the publishers, and then she does a Kate O'Mara impression, and it sounds just like Kate O'Mara. I was like, oh, you see.
Does she go and lie topless on a cross-channel ferry then?
Of course, yes, that's right. She dresses as the Rani.
There's a lot that boggles me about that, but you see, what gets me about Kate O'Mara is how she was so desperate to get back to quarries in the south of England. I'm sick of that. Yeah. No, I mean, doesn't she actually say, I'm rather fed? Isn't there a letter she wrote that basically says, oh no, I'm really looking forward to getting back to quarries again, because this Hollywood glamour is just too much.
Yeah, she I think she crosses over to the next season, but she must have been heading back, pretty. She must have left by late '86 or very early '87 if she was in Time in the Run.
So who was the replacement? I mean, it's like who's next on the British actress list? Who can we get?
Well, I believe that Stephanie Beacham once Colby's gets axed after season 2, she crosses back over into. Because I think Stephanie Beacham stayed in America for about 10 years. Because I've said this before. I think that I've seen her on Charmed in the very late 90s. Yes. I think she was only in a couple of episodes or something. But I think I read that that whoever it was that produced all these programs, Spelling or whatever, kept recasting her in different shows. I think she was in Beverly Hills.
So how many more?
2912
949638 No, isn't that something St Helens Glass or something? No. But didn't
like the coordinates.
how many more years of that dynasty was there?
So 9 seasons. So yeah, I've got 3 more seasons. What's this one?
So you just kind of wonder. I'm trying to think who else would have been around about that. I mean, Lulu wasn't asked. Lulu Jameson wasn't asked, was she?
Although
I'm trying to think who. Did Judy Geeson? Because she's that kind of era, isn't she?
Isn't she? Didn't she? No, I'm wondering Falcon's Crest or what's the other one? The spin-off from Dallas.
Knots Landing.
Knots Landing. There was somebody in Knots Landing.
There was Emma Sams, wasn't there?
Yeah, she was in Dynasty. This Zoom event I attended today was with Judy Matheson, who was in lots of one or two Hammer films and some other horror films, and with little parts in Blake Seven and Crossroads and Coronation Street. But apparently she was saying that she went up for the role of Jo Grant, and she met Barry Letts, and she was, I think, quite near the top of that list. But yeah, that would have been very different. Fandom would have been very different as well.
And you said, Paul, she mentioned her appearances in Z Cars as well.
Yes.
Because we've
seen
some of those.
Clips. Yeah, they had clips. They had the rights to show all the little clips throughout the whole thing. It was quite good.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that brings us to one of the people we should talk about now, and that's Frank Windsor.
Yes.
Because, Warren, you've just written us a tribute piece to Frank Windsor, done in the style of Barlow, sort of doing a report, haven't you? So,
yeah.
What does Frank Windsor conjure up to you, Warren?
I think Frank Windsor is a very safe pair of hands. I know it's a horrible acronym to sort of use, a horrible tag to use on someone as a safe pair of hands, but you knew you were going to get a good performance from Frank, and he's not scared to poke fun at himself either. But as I put on the piece, even if the lines were ropey, he had the confidence to deliver them with the gusto that they needed sometimes. Because if we look at things like some of the softlies, perhaps the task force ones, they can be immensely padded out, mainly because some of it is character development, but the rest of it is just, sometimes you can see it's filler, so you can see the characters getting their own idiosyncrasies. And I especially like the fact he took over from Barlow, didn't he? And the style of writing completely changed. And there was an interesting change of, can Softly survive without Barlow? Of course it can, because Frank Windsor can carry that quite easily, and he did. But he always carried that mantle, isn't it? That if he appeared on television, and this is where the was it Allied Insurance or one of the insurance companies trying to sell over 50s. Here's a man that's always played a policeman whilst you were growing up, so you trust him, and there is a certain trust that he exudes as well, I think.
I found it interesting that you didn't even mention his Doctor Who appearances when you wrote that piece.
Do you know, I'm aware that he was in Awakening and he was in Ghostlight, but
so he's in the King's Demons.
King's Demons Awakening.
Yeah.
But it was the fact that he had done so much, and rather than sit there and do a list, which I could have been there for absolutely ages, it's a small snapshot, because when I write these pieces, I want people to feel, actually, I'll go and look that up. I'll look more up about that person, because that's what I would like people to do. And I think that would be a lovely tribute if people went and did some research and just said, let's take a look at this person and see what they actually did do, because I remember them doing this and I remember doing them that, but I don't remember the bits in between. So I always like to sort of stimulate people to go and look for bits and pieces themselves.
Andy has issues with people being the only thing that people seem to care about is their Doctor Who appearances, and I think what was the one he quoted to me yesterday, something about Via Lorimer. Somebody sort of marking Via Lorimer because we should remember him because he's a walk-on in Silver Nemesis.
Silver Nemesis. But one thing when we we were editing your piece this afternoon, Warren, and the one thing we did want to add was an Age of Kings, wasn't it, Lisa?
Yes.
So just explain
yes.
what that was.
It's a series of Shakespeare's history plays that the BBC did in
1960.
1960, yeah. And they do the entire run of history plays, so from Richard II right through to Richard III. They massively cut down Henry IV because it's probably the dullest one, to be fair. It's just him going mad, really.
But the way they
Terry
do it,
Scully playing him.
yeah, the way they do it, they've got a rep sort of company of people to play all the parts.
And some weeks they'll be playing a bigger part, and some weeks they'll be playing a smaller part.
Yeah.
And amazingly, you get Sean Connery in episode 1 as Henry Hotspur.
Yeah.
And you're like going, flipping heck, it's Sean Connery.
Yeah.
With a Scottish accent. But, you know.
Wasn't this the play that Jacqueline Hill saw him in? And she went and got her husband, who was about at the time, to say, come and see this man. He is amazing. This is he's going to be big. This is Sean Connery.
Yes,
So
quite
I think
possibly.
he was in a Shakespearean piece, yeah. Is this the series with Gordon Gosterlow in?
Yeah, I was
It
going to
is,
say, you've
yeah.
got Geoffrey Bayldon,
Yeah.
you've got Frank Windsor, and
Yeah.
you've got Gordon Gosterlow, which is it's an amazing combination.
Holy Trinity for you lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Gordon Gosterlow doesn't do much, does he?
No.
But
Ever.
he's basically just Gordon Gosterlow.
But back to that again. But but yes, the other person, of course, we should remember tonight is Diana Rigg.
Yes.
So, Warren, you and Diana Rigg go back a long way, don't you?
We go back a long way.
When did you first meet her then?
I was 12 years old.
Mm.
I was in the kitchen in the...
I was in the kitchen and she comes
the
in.
kitchen. I sat on a stool. I do remember it, actually, because the door just flew open to the kitchen and she sort of swept in and hugged and kissed my mother and said, Rosemary, how are you? In a very theatrical way. And I went, blooming heck, who's this? And I went, oh, it's James Bond's wife. Because the only thing I'd known her in at that particular moment was on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Because you hadn't seen the Avengers at this point.
No, it hadn't arrived on Channel 4 yet. So
No.
so I was aware that she was an actress. And by the way she came into the kitchen, I thought she was probably a very well-known one. She's very lovey-ish, as we would call her. But she's a lovely lady. She taught me to swear.
She taught you rude words, and you haven't
She
stopped
taught
since.
me very rude words at the age of 12.
And poems as well, isn't it? Like
Oh,
sort
yes.
of limericks and
Me-
things.
She said, Mary had a little lamb, her father shot it dead. Now Mary takes a lad to school between two hunks of bread. And there are a number of other ones, but I'm not going to repeat them because they're not family friendly.
And what's this about ending up in a food fight with her?
Yeah, we're in the kitchen, and I don't know what was being said, and she threw something at me because I think I might have made a cheeky comment, and so I threw some spaghetti at her, but it wasn't. It was dried spaghetti, so it just flew and scattered everywhere, and then food sort of erupted across the work service, and we got a right rollicking from my mum, so I had to clear it up like naughty school kids.
You can imagine that being an Avengers fight scene, though, at the end of an episode,
Yes.
can't you?
Yes, I can actually. Yes, I mean, I asked her about the Avengers, and she was very sort of distant when you ask her about the Avengers.
Yeah.
I think she was a bit thought she was a bit typecast as far as that was concerned. Everyone remembered her for that and nothing else that she did. But no, she was a lovely, lovely, lovely lady.
But Martin, let's get back to sort of what have we been watching.
Oh, I know this is probably terribly naive of me, but I was actually surprised Frank Windsor was still around. I actually thought for a second it was just one of those stories where he'd actually gone 5 years ago and somebody had noticed and they'd retweeted it and it had become one of those things. So I was actually surprised it was actually this week, you know.
Thank you, Martin. You're not the only one that thought that. I don't feel so bad now because I thought exactly the same.
I thought the same.
Well, there you go. No, it was just one of those things. I mean, I know he was still doing was it double glazing or whatever it was he was doing. But no, it was quite a shock. I was more surprised that. Well, it's kind of weird. It's more surprised that he was still alive when he wasn't. If you see what I mean, it's an odd way of putting it, but yeah, I hadn't realised he'd hung on this long. You know, I was quite surprised. I knew it would affect you a lot, though, because I very very big Z cars, softly task force, Barlow, Jack the Ripper fans that you are. Yeah.
Barlow's Jack the Ripper.
There are commas there. It's very difficult to do commas in audio.
I'm sorry, he wasn't going to make a quick getaway, was he?
But Martin,
yes,
you've obviously got other projects on the go, including A to Z of UK TV drama.
Yeah,
you've just released
I've never watched
episode O, haven't you? Which is Our Friends in the North.
Our Friends in the North, yeah.
Part 2. And but do you want to briefly talk about P?
Pete, we actually yesterday morning we recorded R.
Right.
So we are trying to keep ahead of the game, although our focus, like with many things, has sort of shifted the last few weeks, and for many people. And Letter P is it's not an area that I watch a lot of. It's of course it's in Crisis. It's costume drama, which isn't big on my. Personal, you know, we cross streets to avoid watching costume dramas, quite frankly. But we did Persuasion, and I thought it was jolly good. Thank you very much. Q, I think, will surprise some people, and R was a one-off play again. We seem to have gone into one-off plays. I think basically Our Friends in the North was so epic that I just thought we needed something we actually had the time to watch. Because this, unlike what Paul's vast list of viewing, it's becoming more and more difficult to find any time to watch anything. Although we have this very evening we watched the quite spectacularly brilliant. We watched the last 3 episodes of it. We've been watching it all week. The spectacularly brilliant Millennium Season 2. Which is an astonishing piece of television.
Would you say it's better than the X-Files?
I would say it's. I can rewatch it. I mean, we went back to it having just sat through all of Fringe, and I thought, oh, what's in the same kind of ballpark? And the thing about the second season is it goes very apocalyptic, which for other topics I'm thinking about is very useful. But we were literally the 3rd episode from the end. If you've never seen any other episode of Millennium, the 3rd from the end of season 2, which is basically 4 demons meet in a bar, meet in a diner. It's very Twilight Zone. It's actually incredibly good 45 minutes of television. In many ways, I'm now considering it a staggering work of genius. It is astonishing. Now, Wong and Morgan, who were the producers for that season, just went mad, and yet they actually managed to end the world at the end of season 2, which is kind of weird because season 3 came along, it got renewed, and they really made a mess of the renewal. But anyway, that's by the by. But season 2 of Millennium is an astonishing 23 episodes of American television. I think it may be the maddest 23 episodes of an American season of television that's ever been produced. Quite frankly, it was batshit crazy. It was bonkers. And most episodes you sit there going, what? Now you think Twin Peaks is mad, but Twin Peaks had an internal logic to it. You know, it actually made sense within its own narrative. Millennium just goes anywhere, and it's you know, I know it's a very dark series, and a lot of people don't like it because it's dark, but it's God, as a piece of television, it's rather brilliant.
We have it here, but I have a feeling that I think we might have started season 1 and kind of got a bit bored with it, so we probably needed to give it a bit more to get.
If you're not going to watch any older, watch episode 21 of season 2. It's on the last disc. I swear to God, you'll love it.
I might give it a bit more time. If it's just me watching, I can watch it without. The trouble is when you're watching things with other people, sometimes you get affected if the other person doesn't get into it. So sometimes it's best just to watch things by yourself, and you can live in your own little bubble of enjoyment.
The other things I've been watching, I've just started 1990 because I'm dabbling in dystopia. So and Edward Woodward is brilliant in that. And I've also, because I now have your downloads, the Brack Report I've finally started watching as well. So it's
The what report, sorry?
The Brack Report.
Brack Report, yeah. I don't know that one.
It's a 10-part thing with Donald Sumter and Robert Lang, 1982, about a nuclear accident and the follow-up. And I just remember it because whenever Donald Sumter or Robert Lang appeared in anything, I would go, "That's them two people from the Brack Report," and people would go, "What's the Brack Report?" But it actually turned up on TPTV a few weeks ago, and the people who have seen it, who have been commenting on it, just are raving about it.
But Lisa, let's add, is it Together?
Yes.
To that list of
yes.
forgotten things.
We watched the first episode of Together.
Yeah,
Yes.
you better explain what that is.
It's a soap from 1980 and 1981 by Southern TV, and it's set in an apartment complex, and it's exploring the lives of the residents. And it features, amongst other people, Sarah Green, who wasn't actually in the first episode, Sheila Fay, and Victor Madden, basically playing Victor Madden. But
what colour was his hair in this one?
Grey, yeah.
Oh, it was grey. It wasn't
just grey,
quite red
yeah.
like it was in most things in the 70s.
He turned up in 1990 last night, the one I was watching, the one with Graham Crowden in it. Yeah, episode 4.
Yeah. But yeah, we've watched the first episode so far, and it's a sort of half an hour kind of length, and apparently series 2 was transmitted live with a theme tune sung by Cleo Lane, so that'll be interesting. But my biggest...
Ding.
Is he feeling all right?
But basically, my biggest question at the moment is what, because there's a dog in episode 1, and the dog's called Jackie, and it's the credit read Jackie Frank Murray, and I'm like, who gives a dog 2 names? So I look it up on IMDb, and according to IMDb, Frank Murray was born in 1941. I'm going, hang on a minute. There's no, it's because it's a little dog, so it's. I mean, it's obviously
dogs
not like,
have longevity.
Are you implying it's a little dog that's actually played by a
Santa
man
Claus
in a suit,
forgot?
like Rent-A-Ghost?
It's Stuart Fell. He does. He gets the double.
Maybe he did the
has to
voice
do
for the
running
dog.
scenes and things.
No, it was the Percy Thrower. He was just doing the dog noises.
That's Percy Edwards.
Percy Edwards.
Percy Thrower.
Percy Thrower wrecked a garden at the back of TV Centre.
By doing bird noises. Shattered all the windows. I tell you, it's a nightmare. That bloody pipe of his just blew into it. All it went. The entire concrete donut had to be reglazed. I'll tell you that much.
It was an interesting episode. It also had Margarita Scott, who's Mrs. Pumphrey in the BBC version of All Creatures Great and Small, and Catherine Byron, who's in Weapon. She's the clone master.
Black 7, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm going to like her character. She's a bit.
She don't come down some steps to some dry ice, does she?
No.
In Dudley Simpson's
No.
organ.
But yeah, it was interesting. We'll watch. And also Gillian Bailey from Here Come the Double Deckers! !
Yeah.
Oh, for goodness sake! No.
Tim Worthington will never forgive us if we don't put the exclamation mark in. So.
Yeah.
It's
You've got to get the punctuation right in these things.
When you think, you always think that none of them ever worked again. There you go.
But it was interesting. So
Melvin Hayes.
I'm also finding Enemy at the Door interesting because I watched the first episode and I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not because the first episode, obviously, because it's setting up the situation and all the different characters, is a little slow.
Is
but
that
then-
Simon Cadell? And,
Yes. Simon Cadell as
and
an
Gene,
SS officer.
Gene Hunt.
No, Gene Hunt's
Not
not
Gene-
in that one.
Which one am I thinking of?
That's the ITV German Nazis thing from the
My-
No,
2000s.
but he's an ITV Nazi. There's a difference, is there?
Well, so he's enemy at the door.
A to Z colleague he will tell you that enemy at the door is not very good and it's not worth watching. And there you go.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with him on that one because it's developing nicely now.
Well, how far have you got into it?
Past the
What was
front
the last
titles.
Episode 3 was the last one we did, wasn't it, last week?
Yeah, okay.
So watching it weekly.
He does tend
on
to say,
Talking
yeah, people
Pictures.
then discover how bad it is.
Right. Well, we'll see how
Bernard
it goes.
Horsfall, isn't it? Is
It's
that
Bernard Horsfall and Alfred Burke, and you can't really go wrong with Alfred Burke. So
You think
he's
that,
actually
wouldn't
making the Nazi quite a nice character.
Because it was really
I've
quite
got it
a
on my
dark
shelf, actually. I'm
episode.
looking at it on my shelf.
you? Oh, I have it.
It's really-
I watched episode 1, you know, I told him, oh yeah, I've started watching that. Yeah.
Well, give it a go. Rely on your own opinion.
Well, I thought it was a really quite a dark episode with the girl.
The Germans put on a dance for the locals to try and get a little bit more of a sort of an understanding. And a girl goes to it and is escorted home by one of the soldiers, and they have a bit of a it's not clear exactly, but they have a bit of a fumble, and then she accuses him of raping her, and he ends up getting shot at the end of the episode.
Grief.
So
Well, there's
and
nothing more stalwart either than a crime drama, a medical drama, or some Nazis on telly.
Yeah, well, to be fair, most Nazi dances do end like that. Somebody gets shot.
but it's
Accidentally or by design.
It's an interesting. So far, it's been quite interesting. I'm quite enjoying it. And there was a very young Anthony Head in last week's episode.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, good lord.
so
Did he make the coffee?
no. And Gary
You
Wardhorn
mean
with
with
a tiny bit of hair.
with Trevor Eve's wife? This is the thing about Anthony Head. He is very well travelled because he's been across the pond, hasn't he? He was Buffy's. Was he Buffy's school teacher or something?
He's like a
He was the
mentor.
librarian.
I think.
Librarian,
Yeah.
the watcher.
the librarian.
Yeah, the watcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's another one that's a bit like our Dynasty colleagues, who he's channel hopped quite a bit, hasn't he? Channel hopped. He's pond hopped quite a bit, hasn't he?
The ones that get me are people like when George Innes turns up in Hill Street and
Yes.
and Maurice Rehoves turns up in all sorts of things in America.
And George Innes is doing a very posh voice,
Yeah,
isn't he?
absolutely. Yeah. It's just kind of weird. It's just, I think it's quite early on, but it's 3 episodes, I think. And again, they were all. I think he and Maurice Rehoves must have had a chat. Should we go Hollywood, mate? Should we go Hollywood? Have a go.
Should we get a day return to Hollywood?
I think when I was watching Inferno the other day, it said the information facts said that Olaf Pooley went over to America and did lots of stuff, including Star Trek. And
He's in a Hill Street.
Yeah.
He is actually, isn't he?
He's in a season 7 one. It's very brief, but I thought that's him. That's bloody
Was he
Olaf.
wearing white gloves? Was he wearing white gloves?
He was a he was
No,
a
he was
professor.
wearing mutton chops.
And nothing else.
Beans, mutton chops.
But I must admit, I
nothing else
had to
but a
freeze
smile.
frame because I thought I'm sure that was that it can't be. And it was literally a blink and you'll miss it scene. But yeah,
It's very weird because Davison turned up in an episode of Magnum, didn't
I
he?
think so. Yeah, and I think
Did he?
didn't Tom
He appeared in
Baker do a
an episode,
Remington Steel?
Remington Steele, I think he
Yeah.
might have. I think that was no. It's Peter
Boy.
Davison did a Remington Steele as well. He did season 3, episode in season 3. Because I've got seasons 1 and 2, and unfortunately I can't get 3.
Boy George was on the A-Team in an episode.
Really?
What, in the back of the van or what?
No, they help him.
They help him do what?
I don't know. I don't watch the A-Team.
Oh, make a video.
But
Sorry, I just had a
Britain's
vision. You know
own-
when they used to do get the team together in Mission Impossible, and you had to select them for their special skills. We need a Boy George.
If it,
Why?
had been, if it had been made in the 80s, it would probably be cameos. But like, oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah
yeah.
let's get Debbie Harry in. Cyndi Lauper.
Cindy Lauper.
I
She just
when I
wants to
was
have fun.
When I was watching the Colbys, I had to double take because some of the characters, like one of the relatives, it gets rather complicated. but there's a character played by Catherine Ross who was in Stepford Wives and lots of other things, presumably. Anyway, her house is in London, and none of these scenes are, presumably they're all filmed in America, and they just got a bit of stock footage. There was a scene in Rome in the previous episode, and there was some stock footage, and then they were just in a garden. So anyway, this house in London, the bit of footage they used was where I work, the college where I work now in Belgrave Square. I mean that building has been in lots of different TV programmes. I could talk for minutes on the amount of TV that's been recorded.
Well, we have minutes to fill.
Well, yeah, they film, in the time I've been there, they filmed Spooks there 2 or 3 times, and the last episode of Upstairs Downstairs was filmed at my work. But Belgrave Square gets, I know Kylie used it for one of her videos, and it's been in a number of 70s giallo movies. So I wasn't entirely surprised to see Belgrave Square, but I just wasn't expecting it in an episode of The Colbys. So it was like, oh, okay.
Isn't it great when Americans try to mock up things? I've got a vague memory of an episode of Heart to Heart where they like to do, I don't know how many times Jennifer and Jonathan met in different circumstances, but I can remember at least 3 different episodes of 3 different reasons they met. Well, one of them was meeting her in London. And so they mock up this, what I can say, mock up. And they drive this double-decker bus past in shot. And there's a jolly-looking bus conductor hanging off the end of this Second World War double-decker bus. It's ridiculous. It's so old, this bus, 1940s. And it's supposed to be early 1970s. And running along behind, jumping onto it, is a chimney sweep. And I thought, their impression of this is just Mary Poppins mixed in with their impression of London life. This is absolutely farcical. It's it's Higgins, who the chap who plays Higgins in Magnum PI, the original series with Tom Selleck. He wasn't English. He was a teat southerner, wasn't he? If people watched some of their films, he was in Blazing Saddles, wasn't he? He was wasn't he the deputy mayor in Blazing Saddles?
Well, I was going to say you do get these sort of stock sort of British actors, because I'm thinking of Wilfred Whiteface as well.
Wilfred Hyde White.
Yes.
Wilfred Hyde White. Sorry, not Wilfred Whiteface. That's what I can never remember his name, can I?
That wasn't even close, was it?
But,
Wilfred Hyde White and Buck Rogers is a thing to be seen. It's just it's astonishing.
Really? I wasn't aware of that. Oh no!
In the second season, he just sort of walks onto the set like he's in completely the wrong film in his cardigan, and he's in every episode.
I'm pretty sure he's in a Columbo as well.
Well, he was pretty much based in America, wasn't he, at that stage?
Yeah.
I've seen that Columbo. I'm trying to. Yeah, that's the one with On a Blackman in, I think.
Is that the only Columbo that Patrick McGowan isn't in? Because every time I turn it on the telly,
it's Patrick McGowan.
The Columbo that's set in London is I think, Richard Basehart in it, and
yes,
set around the theatre, darling.
Yes, that's the On a Blackman one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's I think Wilfred Hyde White's the butler or something.
Well, there's also the lovely things when Jessica Fletcher goes to Ireland. They're always hilarious.
Oh God, yeah.
Because everybody's got bright red hair, and Ireland looks remarkably like sort of LA, basically.
And there's the one with Maurice Rose again, isn't there? It's supposed to be in Jamaica or somewhere like that, and he's the head of police.
That's right.
And I can remember watching that going, that's Maurice Rose. Mm-hmm. What's he doing over there? Again, it's like they all had a day return ticket. Let's go over, get a bit of work, and run back.
Well, I think him and George Innes basically at the end of Danger UXB said, Hollywood, right. Get the beers in.
There was an episode of Lost I saw. Considering this is my second watch of it, I haven't watched it for 10 years. There's a a scene I'd completely forgotten. I mean, there are various different characters that are supposed to be all from all over the world, and you know, a lot of it is made up of flashbacks or flash forwards to things. And there was a scene where one of the characters was supposed to be he met his girlfriend on the embankment, but the way that they tried to make it look like they were in London, but they just got where they were standing. That there wouldn't have been a space there. There would have been a building if that was the aspect that they were sort of going for. But and I remember they mentioning Murder She Wrote. They did one actually in London that I remember being just looked like the studio backlot.
There's amazing things about American film sets that are pretending to be London. Is they always get the plugs wrong, the plug sockets. They always get the plug sockets wrong. Sorry, it's one of those things. But there you go.
But we do it over here, don't we, with locations? Doctor Who's a prime one of it for the new season of Cardiff being parts of London. They're very good at doing things like that. But
the Americans do it as well. I mean, you think about all the series that were filmed in Vancouver pretending to be everywhere else. You know, it's the same kind of thing. I mean, basically, they just get a couple of buses up from San Francisco with, you know, logos on the side that sort of said Mooney or whatever the San Francisco.
Well, that's right. I mean, X-Files,
and it's chucking it down with rain.
A lot of the slasher movies I like that are meant to be America were filmed in Canada. So yeah,
really
must be yeah.
Oh yeah, dangerous place, Canada.
Yes.
You said you've got a new addition to your record collection.
Oh yes, no, it came through the letterbox only yesterday.
So what came?
The original LP versions of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy have been finally released to the wide world, and you know, it's yeah, they're not the radio show. They're not the TV version. They were made in the studio, and apparently the sound is beautiful. I've not actually listened to them yet, but apparently they are just a whole new, exciting. Well, not new and exciting because they're 40 years old, but but they were a whole different take on it, and I'm quite interested to hear them. Yeah.
Well, I did have them as LPs, and I think that would have been the first time I'd heard audio versions of those early episodes. So I think when I went to the radio versions, I was quite surprised how different they were. Because the radio ones are actually quite sparse in the first few episodes in terms of sort of music and effects. It was so ingrained in my head what the next sort of sound effect or bit of music cue was going to be that when I heard the radio versions, I thought they were wrong. So yeah, because I'd listened to those records over and over again.
But that's a bit like Genesis of the Daleks, isn't it? When we didn't have videos, the LP version somehow became the definitive version. You know?
I remember your albums actually, Andrew. I can remember those, and like yourself, I have a box set of the radio series here, and yeah, the first 2 episodes, it makes you wonder how it became successful as a radio series.
Yeah, I do like episode 1. I mean, I did listen to the first track just to make sure it was playing, you know, but. I'm fascinated by Hitchhikers. It's you know when we did the 6 parts of Quatermass and the Pit, that's the only other one I thought, well, maybe I could do the other 5 parts of Hitchhiker at some point.
Hitchhiker.
You
know. What's the draw for you for vinyl? Because I'm quite interested what the draw for vinyl is now, being that there are so many different sources now that we have MP3, we have listen online, we have CD, Laserdisc. But what is the draw for vinyl? Wax cylinder. What is the draw for vinyl? And especially, what is the draw for vinyl? So we just mentioned it there. We've got Genesis of the Daleks. Pescatons was released, wasn't it? That was great. I love the Pescatons. But what is this draw nowadays to harken back? Is it just a fad, or do you think it's the way forward?
I can tell you why I got into it, and it's literally just down to having too much money probably in the bank now. And there's no other formats to buy these things on again. And what I do find is, though, I used to listen to music so much, and then I got into podcasts it's been I was into podcasts before I started doing my own podcast, and I found that I wasn't listening to music that much. And the trouble is with things like I get my music from Prime, and it's like being a kid in a sweet shop for me, because I just I like music for the last 50, 60 years, and I want to try it, and it's like grabbing it all, but then you don't have the time to listen to it. So what I do find with the vinyl is, like today, I wasn't doing anything, so I spent all morning, I listened to 3 different albums, and I took photos of them, and I put them on Instagram, and I interacted with people who said, "Oh, that's good," and I actually listened to the music. I mean, these are all albums I know really well. Like, I've known for like 30 years, some of them, and it's just a way of sitting me down, keeping me still, and not it just being a background as I'm shopping.
Got a ritual involved in it.
Yeah, it's sort of, it is like a ritual.
10, 15 years ago, I was in an office with a guy, and he was there was a single had come out, and he said, "Oh, I got the original single of that," and he got the single out to play for his daughter, and his daughter just looked at him and went, "What the hell is that?" It was a 7-inch single, and this was in the era of CDs, and she was just, what do you do with it? And he's sort of saying, "Well, you put the arm across," and she was just like, "Don't be daft. You know what? No, Dad, don't be silly. You're messing me about." And he said, "Well, then what? And how many songs are on it?" One.
You know? And now you could play the sketch, not the 9 o'clock news, straight after that, couldn't you?
It just fascinates me because
would you like a bag on your head? Would you like slimline salad dressing with that, woofers and tweeters?
Well, my stack of vinyl. I mean, I've still got my vinyl LPs. I haven't got a player for them. I've got my vinyl LPs from when I used to buy them sort of 30, 40 years ago.
You don't have a gramophone?
No, good lord, no. Good lord, no. And but I look at them and they've still got the price labels on, because that was another thing I never. So I was like, my double album of Tusk by Fleetwood Mac was like $5.99, and I thought that was a fortune. And now I look at what people are paying, and it's what, 60 quid or something?
What? No, the one. I mean, I bought a Fleetwood Mac with this payday. I bought Mirage from about 1982, and it was about £15.
No, I mean these collectible ones you see.
Well, no, this is. I mean, this would count as a collector. Right. I mean, I've bought. I think I bought Rumours on clear vinyl. I mean, that's as collectible as you. I mean, you probably. I mean, I know what you mean when you're saying maybe there's a 10 disc. I know Prince has just released a 10 disc set of just one, or the Prince estate has just released a 10 disc box set with but then I think he's the sort of person who would have lots of different versions in the archives. So I guess they do get. They do get boxed, but then
I was really thinking of these big Finish things that seem to be ridiculous.
Well, yeah. And
limited.
I've bought a couple. Well, yeah, I've bought a couple of. I bought the Destiny of the Daleks one, which again is partly because that's one of my favourite stories, and the one where I sort of come into this Doctor Who universe.
Got that on the CD years ago.
And but they've also been, there's a nice box set with Evil of the Daleks and Dalek Master Plan, but because they're long stories, they rack up to being quite expensive. But I must admit, I probably know less about Evil of the Daleks and Dalek Master Plan, because those were novelised much later, and I probably never wrote them. I probably never read them, so I probably will treat myself to those, because it'll be the first, a bit like Fury, although I read the book of Fury of the Deep, but I'd forgotten everything about it. So I enjoyed watching it, pretty much not knowing what was going to happen with the recent.
I have got a question, and it's one of those questions that's been sort of slightly, because I'm obviously in a grumpy mood tonight. So there we go. But this Victorious thing, does anybody actually give us stuff?
I don't really know what it is, to be honest.
Neither do I. I know nothing about it either.
It's a linked set of books, CDs, and comics and things, just with an ongoing story. But apparently,
so it's just like is it sort of like the Key to Time, but spread over like half a dozen bits of media?
I think so. I don't know that much about it, because it's not something I was intending to buy, because there's just too many bits and pieces of it. So,
but
that's
you don't
what I'm
really buy
thinking.
Much
Beyond
Doctor Who magazine these days, do you?
No, Doctor Who magazine, the odd Big Finish, DVDs, and that's it really.
I just mean, to get the whole thing seems like such a faff. I'm sort of thinking, I can't be bothered, and I'm just wondering if that's going to be what kiboshes it in many ways.
I think in some ways,
I know it appeals to the collector, doesn't it? So that's
it appeals to the collector, and it probably appeals to the sort of new series fans as well, who want something to fill the time before the next series. People that aren't intending to go back and watch the sort of classic Doctor Who or rewatch New Who, even just people that want new content.
I don't have a podcast that takes up all their life.
Although
Yes.
again, it is kind of weird because despite what I do, I must admit the comic strips and comic, they've never that appealed to me that much. So it's and that seems to be a large part of it. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I just aren't interested in that kind of medium. It's just, is it canon? Am I going to understand everything that comes from now on? Am I going to have to have actually sort of consumed all this?
I think it's set. It's not set with the current Doctor. It's set with the sort of 9th and 10th Doctors and that sort of thing. So, and maybe a bit with Tom's Doctor as well. So I don't think it actually affects your enjoyment of anything else.
A fragment of it is in the annual, though. So,
well, I haven't got this year's. I've got last year's annual actually.
I must admit we've got some of the annuals, but I never really read the annuals much as a kid, I have to say. I sort of got them for Christmas, and I didn't sort of spend my next couple of months hunched over the annuals,
filling in the crosswords.
Well, no, yeah, precisely. I'd sort of look at them on sort of Christmas Day, maybe. And then
get the family round to play the game. Come on.
Yeah. Well, we did do a video once, didn't we?
We did.
Of playing one of the games. Yeah. That's probably the first time I ever played that game.
First time
Was that the one we played in your in the sitting room at Christmas?
No, that was a real game, wasn't it?
That was a proper game.
That was a proper game.
Yeah.
No.
Then we had to restart because we started playing it on the floor, and then none of us could get up, and then Martha came along and knocked all the pieces over.
It's old age.
Well, you do realise that your record of playing that Doctor Who annual game may be the only record in history of anybody playing it ever.
Yeah.
Quite possibly, yes. Well, we like to break barriers every now and then. Yeah.
Like go down in the annals of history, as it were.
Unique content. Unique content.
Pixley will be on the phone going. You'll be a DVD extra before you know it, or whatever format comes next that we all buy again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a lot of these things that you have to look at it and think, will I look at this again? And obviously with the DVDs and the Blu-rays, but yes, then the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Though we've still only done 2 episodes of Fury from the Deep.
Yeah.
So, because we've been watching other stuff. And, I've bought quite a few of the big finishes, especially when the last season of Who was on. They were discounting a lot of them. And I bought them, and I still haven't listened to them.
No. I've got
And
a
you
lot
get
of
to the
Big
point
Finish
where
in cellophane. I think there's a lot of Big Finish exists in cellophane.
Well, these are just downloads, because I've stopped actually trying to get the physical copies because we're just running out of space.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just have to get to a point where you're like, am I going to look at this? If I'm not going to look at this again
in the next 10 years,
I probably shouldn't buy it. I mean, it doesn't stop me for a lot of things, but
I think again, that comes down to that collectability thing again, though, because now they do things in such limited runs to make them sell out, make them collectible. Actually, the problem is if in 10 years' time you decide, actually, I quite like that, it can become much more difficult to get hold of them. So it's like these sort of rare books that are suddenly sort of 50, 60 quid, or even a deleted DVD set that you never knew about or whatever, and you suddenly think, oh, quite fancy that, and you think, oh God, yeah, do I want to go 65 quid on Amazon? I don't think so,
Well, it was only recently that we discovered that our DVD of episode 1 of Rainbow won't play.
Oh God, yeah, I bought it, and it got it second hand, and went to play it, and it doesn't work, and I was like, oh well, never mind. It wasn't expensive.
Yeah.
This is why we have our emergency set of Bergerac to crack, which we haven't opened up, but it will remain in wrap until something happens to the other set, and then we'll be able to break the glass.
Well, everybody needs an emergency Bergerac.
And John Nettles
Charlie Hungerford in cellophane.
John Nettles would
glass to
take
activate
and act it
in case of emergency.
and act it for you.
You probably get confused and not remember who he was doing now. Was he playing Bergerac or Barnaby?
All right.
Does he only play characters with letter B in their name?
I think so, yeah. I don't know who he played in the Liver Birds, but I think he was somebody's boyfriend in the Liver Birds.
Well, boyfriend starts with a B.
He pops up in Enemy at the Door in a few episodes' time, so...
I was trying to think what else he'd ever done apart from those. It's one of those actors that you think, oh yeah, and then you think, I don't remember seeing him in anything else at all. So there we go.
I used to say that about Christopher Timothy, but he pops up in a few things. I mean, UFO, he's probably one of the better things that he's known for, but he pops up in a couple of sort of 70s dramas, Christopher Timothy. But until I saw All Creatures Great and Small, I really wasn't aware of him either. But yet he's another person that sort of, I don't know whether he returned to the stage after All Creatures Great, and but now and again he went to he's in Doctors, isn't he, or was he? He
was in Doctors, yes, to start with, and he was in EastEnders for a bit as well.
Was he?
So, yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, and he did that car thing with Davison.
So there's that lovely thing as well where you spot people. I think that it doesn't Gareth Hunt fly an eagle in Space 1999 or something. That's it. He doesn't say anything. He's just that's Gareth Hunt.
John Levine flies an interceptor, doesn't he, in UFO?
Oh God!
Does he?
A couple of episodes. Yeah. In one episode, he's going down the chute next to.
He's going down the
chute. Stephen, what's his name with the hole in the head at the front?
Burkoff.
What?
Burkoff,
that's it. Stephen Burkoff, one of his. I mean, he was playing bit parts till the beginning of the 70s on TV, and he turns up quite a lot in UFO.
Another person who comes into Dynasty season 6, who's one of the English lot, is Christopher Cazenove. He plays Blake's brother Ben for a season or so.
Ah. See, I wouldn't have thought that was the sort of thing he'd have done, but it's money, isn't it?
Did any of you see Only Connect last week, Malloy?
I might have seen a bit of it.
There was a moment where
Claudius round
where what's her face presents it, Victoria Plummer, no, Victoria Plum, Corran, yes, Mitchell, yes,
Mitchell.
So many. But she sort of goes on about when she actually had to defend Christopher Biggins's acting. It's just. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because they did a Claudius round.
That's
right. Got that one.
Yeah.
It's the only time I've ever got it from like this first or second clue. So.
But, Brian Blessed, of course, yes. But there was just this moment where who was it? She was defending him. He was better actor than
Oliver Reed, was it?
Could have been.
No, might have been Oliver Reed. I can't remember now.
But anyway, I thought that was a very round the archives moment. I thought.
What did we enjoy? Pointless. What was the question? Name actors who have appeared in Wurzel Gummidge or Rent-A-Ghost or Maid Marian.
Maid Marian and Her Merry Men.
And Geoffrey Belden was pointless.
He was.
Oh.
But people remembered that Connie Booth was in Wurzel Gummidge.
Yes.
Which I don't understand.
Yeah.
Have you never been tempted then to go on one of these quizzes to apply?
You've talked about it, haven't you, Warren?
Warren and I have talked about it, haven't we, Warren?
We thought of doing Pointless, haven't we? And
we have.
We will do it one day.
We're not letting Andrew on there because he'd be directing it.
Yeah.
And swearing.
Oh, yes, I know. Yes.
I'd be going, right, have you got the angle? All right, okay, are we recording? Right.
Run, roller. It wouldn't. You'd be Steve Morris, wouldn't you? You'd be shouting.
Stuart Morris.
Run the caption roller. Yeah.
You should just apply with Paul. Just sort of,
But,
shy.
Going back to Christopher Timothy, and somebody said on Twitter the other week, because I've been watching the new version of All Creatures Great and Small, which is lovely, and I highly recommend it. And somebody said if for series 2 they should get Peter Davison and Christopher Timothy in as a couple of angry farmers in the background, just shaking their fists at the camera.
What you do in veterinary? Yeah.
Get off my production set.
Yeah, he just has to stand in the background with his arms folded, looking at somebody else sticking their arm up.
They're not actually allowed to do that anymore. Any time they need to do something where they have to interact with an animal, they have to make a model, because you can only put your hand up a cow's bottom now if you are a qualified vet.
or whether the cow or the horse has an equity card.
Yeah.
No, it's actually against the law.
Yeah, you've got to have a certificate, haven't you?
So there was a scene where he had to put his hand up a cow's bottom, but it was you only saw the bottom bit, and it was a model.
You have to have a certificate to be an animal record.
I am an official animal bottom inspector.
I can understand that. I really can understand that. But if memory serves me right, I can believe they asked them about that when they did the original series. Didn't they have veterinaries on hand?
Where's me watch?
Telling them what to do.
Yes. And Davison said it's the only time he was warm when he was filming it, because the rest of him would be cold, but his arm was nice
that
and
makes
warm.
it sound like it was the Generation game, Lisa, to walk back to the beginning. Like you can imagine the vet demonstrates it, and then they have to have a go themselves. You know.
And Bruce Forsyth
And then they mark
comes
them, and the cow marks them out of 10.
Yeah.
And Bruce Forsyth comes along and says, "Didn't they do well?"
Yeah.
Warren, if you ever transfer to Yorkshire Constabulary, you might be able to prosecute somebody for
Interfering with an
without a
cow.
certificate.
Bovine interference.
Have you got a certificate for that, sir?
Oh yes, exactly. Christopher Timothy has.
I've got evidence of you, sir.
It's how productions have changed. But yeah, you're quite right, Lisa. I mean,
It's all to
can't
do with
just
animal
go
welfare
ahead.
now, so
Exactly.
quite
You
rightly.
can't-
So
can't go interfering with animals.
Yeah.
Well, it's ever since Dr. Chinnery.
Yeah.
blowing up things,
Yeah.
hamsters, wasn't it?
But that brings us back to Diana Rigg, doesn't it?
It does, because she played Mrs. Pumphrey in a couple of episodes,
Yeah.
and she was wonderful. Yeah.
And I have the title of the episode of the Avengers that I've forgotten who it is. Who's died now?
Frank
Who's died?
Windsor.
Frank Windsor.
Frank Windsor. Yes.
Who's died? Yeah.
I forgot the name of the episode, but I've forgotten who it is. It's the curiously entitled "Whoever Shot Poor George Bleak Stroke XR40," which is all to do with the computer.
Which was on, strangely enough, 2 days ago on ITV4.
Oh.
Yes,
Okay.
Very bizarrely, yeah.
they have been repeating. Well, they've been repeating some Diana Rigg ones, obviously for obvious reasons, but which I ended up watching in that format, even though I've got at least 2 sets of the Avengers in different formats. So in a way, sometimes it feels, well, I guess I know I've got the DVDs, but if it's actually on the TV, I might set
Well, that makes it real.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're
Yeah.
watching Enemy at the Door, because it's on the
Because
TV.
it's on the telly. Yeah.
So it's like appointment viewing now.
Yeah.
So
So there we go. Right, well, we're going to have to bring this to a close, I think. So thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Lisa.
thank you.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. Take care.
And thank you,
Paul.
Paul.
Oh yes. Well, thank you, whoever you are.
Yeah. Thank you all, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.